Welcome, everybody, to It Tastes Different Gaming News. What's on the news today? Xbox is playing baseball with buttholes. Xbox is in starting an enforcement strike system to combat online a-holes. Before I get into it, I'm going to throw a bet down that it's going to create more online a-holes. Let's dive in. So, Xbox is starting a new strike system to combat online bad behaviors. Let's just say. I'm trying to be not using dirty words here. But they state they are constantly improving their safety measures and bringing more systems and tools in place that empower players to respectfully, it's a big word, it's a bullcrap word, but it's a big word, respectfully interact with one another, because everyone deserves a place to comfortably be themselves online, free from blah, 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 blah. And that is true. I mean, we can all agree with that. Everybody should be able to jump into a game, have fun, be respectful to each other, good or bad. This new system attaches a strike to every strikes to every enforcement, ranging in severity based on inappropriate activity. Each player will now have a view of their enforcement history, and this seems to be kind of like their star system. Some back on 360, you have I think 5 or 6 stars. It'll go up, it'll go down, blah blah blah. And the revised system gives players a better understanding of enforcement severity and the cumulative effect of multiple enforcements. So essentially, the strike system builds up, and each strike has a different punishment. And as you progress in strikes, you're foul ball, you're out for a time being. According to this, it says in 2022, fewer than 1% of all players received a temporary suspension, and only 1/3 of those received a second. That to me is a load of crap, because there are many, many players that should have had a suspension higher than that. So the suspension or the strike system, profanity is 1 strike. Cheating is 1 strike. Sexually inappropriate language or, suggestions are 2 strikes. Harassment or bullying is 2 strikes. And then hate speech is 3 strikes. So basically, this is going to kill the online lobby for Call of Duty the first day. Plain and simple. So I don't know. To me, the strike system, the way they're phrasing it, it's going to be bad. So Nick is playing a game. He says, "Hey, you want to hear a joke about your mom?" "Oh no, I'm offended." I give him a strike. That's going to happen a lot. People are offended about nothing and everything. And then there's people out there who deserve a crap load of strikes. We can all agree to that. So let's dive in here and see what these guys think. I have my feelings, so let's jump to Nick. Nick, what do you think? Are people going to be good and cool gamers and only use the strike system when necessary?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be fine. Because they do say that Xbox is going to take a look at, right? So you can't, unlike the 360 where you could like say something about somebody or say something on there, and it would, after so many cumulative bad comments, it would basically drop your star system down, and then good comments would bring it up and various things like that. People can report things, but then it's up to Microsoft and Xbox to look at that and see if it's legitimate to then give the person a strike, right? So it's not necessarily the players just doling strikes out where they see fit. If it was that way, then yeah, it'd be pure chaos. But luckily, Microsoft is supposedly going to be reviewing each of these strikes and their severity, and then basing it based on that, right? Whether or not someone deserves a strike or if it's just kind of a slap on the wrist, don't do that again type thing. And they say, you know, they say, for example, how it's going to work is kind of like if someone receives 2 strikes, they'll be suspended from the platform for a day. A player that receives 4 will be suspended for 7 days, and players that have a total of 8 strikes will be suspended from Xbox's social features like messaging, parties, party chat, multiplayer, and others for a year from the enforcement date. All strikes received to stay on a player's record for 6 months. So today, players will begin with a blank slate, 0 strikes, and all previous enforcements and suspensions must still be completed. New enforcements as the day will result in strikes. So instead of just going, I mean, before what they were doing is kind of like, if you got a violation, they might decide to just up and ban you for a day or 7 days or anything like that. So now they're just going to a strike system where you get, you know, you do something that gives you 1 strike. So then, you know, okay, if I get another one, I'm going to be banned for a day, right? So maybe I should avoid that. And it sounds like every 6 months they drop off to where you get, you know, you're back down to 0 regardless of where you're at. So I think overall, I think it'll be a fine system. Will there be people that are going to abuse it? Of course, there are always people that are that way. But it's up to Microsoft, or at least it should be, right? And we got to hold Microsoft accountable to be able to look at these violations, these potential strikes from individuals, and review and make sure that these are, in fact, what they say they are, right? And I think this coincides with what we talked about before, which is their new reporting system, where you'll be able to do video and voice recording, you know, so that will allow, I think, Microsoft and Xbox to better validate these, you know, accusations that come across from individuals, right? If someone just says something and there's nothing to back it up, I mean, what are they going to do about that? You know, they probably won't do anything. There probably will be no strikes or anything like that happening, I would imagine. You know, if someone says, hey, you know, Shane said a bad word but I have no video and no voice chat to back up what I say, it's my word against Shane. So, you know, what are they going to do about that? So I think it's more in line with the voice and recording portion that we talked about before that they've done, where they can then look back at that and say, okay, yeah, you know, Shane did say a bad word, he gets a strike, right? You know, and then so on and so forth, and allowing users to be able to go out there and see what strikes they have and stuff like that. I think is good too, because then that allows them to monitor this, right? Instead of, you know, I mean, because we have heard horror stories in the past where someone gets banned or something like that and they have no reason, they don't know why, right? Whereas this one, they do show a picture. This is on Xbox. That's what we're looking at in regards to the article, and they do show kind of a visualization of the strike, of a person getting a strike, and then what, you know, the suspension period, how much time is remaining, why they got the strike, when it started, when it ends, you know, when it expires, things of that nature. And probably some way to maybe I don't know. Is there? I didn't see anything. Is there? I'm sure there is some way to kind of combat those as the individual, to be able to be like, hey, I don't deserve said strike, right? Which they can then go ahead and review that for whatever reason. So I think overall this would be fine. I don't, you know, like Shane says, he's worried about people abusing it, which they will. But again, it's in Microsoft's court at that point to do a good job of enforcing, you know, those abuses, and people that, you know, what they should do is for those people that they notice are abusing the system, they should be getting strikes themselves, right? For abuse of the system. So, you know, what goes around comes around, I'd say. What do you think, Pat?
Well, good news, guys. I got 0 out of 8 strikes, so I'm good to go. I just checked my account.
Just wait till we're done here, mister.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, there is an appeals process of this, so you can appeal anything that happened to you. You have the ability to appeal. You know, there's probably only one. You get one chance, and then they're like, all right, we heard you out. We're done. You know, it either sticks or it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of a lot of games, a lot of the heavy multiplayer games have horribly toxic communities in them. And it's just, I mean, unfortunately, it's what you allow with, adults who don't know how to act, and then probably twice as many kids who shouldn't be on there playing, whose parents don't give a shit, who are just spouting some of the most profane sentences I've ever heard in my life from a 12-year-old or 11-year-old. I'm like, wow, I can only picture like what would have happened to me when I was that age if my parents heard me say half of that or even 1/8 of that sentence, what would happen. But, that's because they're not supervised. Their parents aren't paying attention to them or whatever. And they're getting away with cussing worse than any sailor out there imaginable, or just stringing along a string of curse words that make no sense that belong together, but it was every one of them under the sun. But that's kids. And if you let them take an inch, they'll take the mile, and that's what they do. But there's adults out there that do the same thing. But I think by majority, most of the toxicity that I've noticed in the communities are the young kids who are just going off the rockers. They're off their meds. I don't know what's going on. But so I typically avoid multiplayer for that situation. And I don't think this is going to remedy it. If anything, it's going to cause a lot more griefers. But, but I agree with Nick. If you're a constant griefer like that and you get busted, I think you need to get points. I think if you submit, they need to come up with a number. If you submit X number of cases and they all come out to be that nothing ever happened and you were just griefing that player because they said something you didn't like that wasn't against community standards or whatever, you need to get a point or multiple points, for wasting time and effort. And then, I think a single point gets you a 1-day ban from what I saw on the chart. So even 1 point gets a ban. So if it's confirmed, you get a ban for a day. So, it is what it is. And if you get 8 of them, you're banned for an entire year. I noticed that they don't ban you from actually using the service. So you can still buy games and they can still make money off of it. You just can't party chat with your friends. You can't play multiplayer games with them. I think in that case, most people would probably just create a new account. I mean, honestly, that's probably what they'll end up doing. They'll run through the gambit of their accounts. I mean, because I guarantee you the majority of people who are going to be a griefer or a problem for the system aren't the ones with high gamer scores that would care if they lost their gamer score. Like if I lost my gamer score, I'd probably be pretty upset. Like I don't have a score as high as Shane or Nick, but I'll be damned if I'm going to lose my progress from years of gaming that I put in here, and sit there and look at my gamer score back down at 0. At that point, I might become a griefer at that point. I don't know, man. But Shane, how many points do you got? We also don't multiplayer game a lot, too, because Grandpa Shane would have 8 points in the first match. His mouth would get him in trouble. I
would. You go.
We'd have 8 points in our first match.
The worst I had was years and years and years ago. It's like Call of Duty 1 or something. I don't know. Some 12-year-old was cussing and just saying the most outlandish, just like you were describing. I mean, it was like Samuel L. Jackson script, just minus, the verbs. It was terrible. And I let loose on the little bastard. And apparently the mom heard me or something. And the next day I had a 3-day suspension or a 7-day or something like that. Because I said I was going to find his house and XYZ, and I was just furious, and everybody's busting up laughing. So the more they laughed, the more I kept just ranting on about this little bastard. So he's probably in jail now or something. But I mean, this is way back when I think right around the launch of the 360. So I was pretty pissed off. But I don't see Microsoft having enough resources and not that they can't afford it, just will they, to be able to monitor all that? I mean, just a Call of Duty match alone, I don't mean the game, I mean just one match, is a buttload of grief. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of that. Fortnite, things like that. But, hopefully it will fear some of the people not to do the things that are wrong. But there's people that get burnt hurt over nothing. And there's some people that find some things offensive that aren't, or some things offensive that other people find fine. I mean, our humor in this group is pretty effed up at times. Even Will admit to that. I mean, I've told one of you, I hope your uncle finds your house drunk with a handful of Viagra. I mean, that's just our humor. So it is what it is.
One day, they're going to incorporate AI into party chat, and they're just going to be like, Shane, you get a 1-day ban. Do you remember saying this? And you're like, dude, I said that in the company of my friends, and they're not,
exactly.
They don't care.
Yeah. And, that's another thing. No. So let's say 3 of us are playing some online match. It's a 4-player requirement. Somebody joins our match. We're not in private, we're in the game. They're going to hear the way we communicate and be offended by it. Be probably appalled by it, because sometimes I'm like, did I say what I just said? And you guys, I know, say that 1,000 times when we have conversations. Did he say what I think he said? So, but I've never in my gaming life, attacked people with race or anything like that, or religion or anything like that. I'll call people out for being, a-holes, but that's just a grown up in me, I guess. But I don't want this to be abused. It will be at the beginning. I think Microsoft will have a lot of tweaking to do. But how long is it going to take? So let's say I give Nick a strike. You give Nick a strike. It's a 3-day suspension, right? It's a 3-day ban or whatever it is. I'm just, throwing smoke out there. How long does it take for his appeal to go out and say, hey, they were just being jerks. I didn't do anything wrong. How long does that appeal take?
It may take a week. He's got to live through that suspension.
Yeah.
Expansion.
So, yeah. That's where the griefers strike should come in. Definitely. Because if
he gets the strikes removed, right?
Yeah. But if you grief somebody and it comes back, that should be a 3-strike. In my opinion. This way you do it 2 times, you do it a third, you're out. I mean, you're out for a year. That's, my opinion, but is it heavy-handed? I don't think so. I'm an eye for an eye guy. So, but hopefully, nobody will abuse it. Microsoft gets it down to where it works well, and maybe people will quit being bastards online and, just have fun in a game. That's really what I want. So
I think that's never going to happen.
I think they have to do something, right? I mean, ultimately,
yes,
they all have to do something. So this is just a route for them to go. We'll see how it turns out for them. I mean, I think it'll be fine, but I think that being able for users to go out there and visually see these strikes might deter people from doing certain things. There's definitely going to be grievers, but hopefully those grievers, hopefully they do have some system in place. And I agree with Shane. I think it's, if it's grief and they find out that, it would have to be like, because the first time around someone grieves something, it could just be like a my bad type of thing. But if they notice a trend with that user, then I think it should be, a heavy-handed, like several stars type of thing. And, that will show them right there. Because if they go on there and they notice they have like 4 stars, and it says because of constant grieving, just constantly, posting violations that were happening that aren't actually happening, then they'll be like, oh, maybe I should not do that, and they might second guess themselves from doing it in the future because they know they can't get away with it. Because if they don't have anything to enforce that on the back end for those who do grieve, because we know there's going to be those people, then they'll just continue to do it for a long time, and it will be messy in that case.
Yeah.
The only way to stop it really is the only way you can play online is your profile has to have a picture of who you are, approved off your driver's license along with your address. Well, guess what, little Billy? Shane's going to show up at your house and whoop your ass for real because he knows you live on blah, blah, blah. And he knows where you live.
Yep. What they should do. And Silent Bob, that shit. Hell yeah.
Did you post on Movie Poop Shoot as a Magnolia fan?
What they should do is something similar to the 360 where it had the stars in your profile. Like it should be on the Xbox itself, not just through the website that you can see your 1 through 8 strikes, right? It should be like in your face, kind of like it was on the 360, so that users know right away. Because otherwise, you have to go either probably, I don't even know if you can go through the app. You at least have to go through the website, which, I mean, I was able to get on there and look at my stars. I don't have any, but still, though, like if it's not in people's face, it's kind of like they don't think about it, right? They have to. I mean, I'm sure if they do get a violation, it will get emailed to them and maybe even a notification on their Xbox, possibly, of that star violation. But if it was more in their face, like they could see it on the main screen, where it shows like your gamer tag and kind of rotates things. If that would rotate to your star system, then people would be like, "Oh, I got 3 stars. I better stop," or that would give people more incentive to kind of chill out. Hopefully.
So like, I don't remember. I knew they had the stars, but I never played a lot of multiplayer games. So the only way I could see that being beneficial is if you could say, hey, I want to set my profile to where I'll only play with people that have 2 stars or less.
That's kind of how it worked.
Yeah.
So basically it really wasn't like, I mean, I guess you could set it, but it was really kind of like how it worked was you couldn't set your star rating, but the way that it worked is depending on your star rating, it would basically put you in multiplayer matches with those that had a similar star rating. So if you had like half a star, you got mixed in with all the assholes that also had half a star. But it worked on like a rating system. So like I could go in and say like Shane's an asshole and give him 2 stars, right? And then if he had 4 stars, it may go down to, it may go down like a small sliver, right? And
it's a grouping,
that's kinda,
right?
It's a grouping.
It's an average, I guess.
I remember I had like 4.5 stars. And I don't know how the hell I got it. I mean, the only time we played online was just me and Shane played online. I mean, we played online
gave
with
you a 1
people,
star one time.
It's probably that.
1 star.
But and so that's kind of how it worked. So it grouped all the assholes together.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like this one's not going to allow you to do anything like that. But that would be kind of cool if you say, hey, I don't want to play with anybody that has more than like 2 strikes or something,
Right.
And it makes those people play together. But then I can imagine the Call of Duty lobbies, as Shane says, it's just a bunch of 7 stars hanging around, just railing on each other, reporting each other. Next thing you know, Call of Duty's player base falls off by 60% because 60% of them have 5 or more stars and just reported each other.
Yeah. And that's, and that brings up a good point. There's people that are okay with lobbies that are just full of terrible jokes and race jokes and things like that are, offensive to others, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to play and enjoy. I think more private lobbies in games need to be able to be created for multiplayer matches, because you used to be able to say, hey, I'm looking for a match, and you'll see something that said, I think Ghost Recon had it, where a little descriptor, adults only, profanities allowed, stuff like that. I think it was Ghost Recon, I can't remember. And you could jump into matches like that somebody created, where you can go in there and just let loose, be the racist a-hole you want to be, make the nastiest. I heard some of the greatest jokes in those lobbies, because they were people that when you got in there, they weren't hateful people. They were just bad humor. They just had bad tasting jokes, and I loved it. That's me. I mean, that's me in a nutshell. So you can go in places like that and have a great time, because people in there had your sick, twisted sense of humor. Now, if you're my son's age, I don't want him in there. I don't want, because it's bad enough he has my mouth. I mean, I don't want him having my dirty mouth. So, but people have got to quit being a-holes to begin with. So, but I think you should be able to play in a lobby where you can be an a-hole without getting in trouble too.
I mean, in a public game, I don't think any public lobbies should have that, right? You shouldn't give people a free forum for that. Now, if you want to hang out in a party chat with your friends and be D-bags to each other or whatever, like we give each other a hard time and rail on each other and and just just kind of crap like that, that's perfectly fine, right? But not in a public lobby of a game. I don't even care if a public lobby, which means anybody can join because there is actually no way to restrict that, right? Like typically. Now, back in the Ghost Recon early days, I think you could put restrictions on the chat and it would actually restrict based on the age of, if I said I don't want my kid to join that, then whatever. But even then, at some point, having an adult lobby where people can cuss is one thing, but having a lobby where people can just be as derogatory and attacky as they want against people they don't know, I don't necessarily agree with that. I wouldn't give them a space to live in.
Social media, now, they do it all the time.
You're not supposed to have a social media account until you're over a certain age, though. So
that is true. But, if you want to jump into a room with other adults, and be able to have your sick, twisted humor and just have fun, why not? But, you do have to worry about, little Billy going in there and learning what a Cleveland steamer is,
But, yeah, like I said, it's just one of those things where if it's publicly hosted, no. If you're like we create private parties, we don't ever go into the public lobbies and stuff when we play online. And just because we want to give each other a hard time and we don't want anybody reporting us because somebody said Shane was hard on Nick or whatever, or you should have heard the things that Shane said to Nick or the things Nick said to Shane.
Why am I the reference?
Because you are the ref. You're like, so here's the needle of what's like publicly accepted, and here's like people that don't come near that, and then this is Shane. Like this is like a 100% scale what you can see, but Shane's like out here, you can't see him.
You know what? It may be accurate, but it's still hurtful.
You're always the reference point. Shane's always the reference point.
Yeah, that is true.
But no, there's one thing about playing with your friends and having a foul mouth and razzing each other and giving everybody and just telling jokes. We've sat in party chat before and just told random stupid jokes, reading jokes online or whatever. And that's one thing. But being in a public lobby and chat and stuff like that where people can just come and go, I don't think that's necessarily appropriate. Create a private chat with your friends.
I think it's okay as long as there's a warning ahead. It's just like any TV show, graphic violence, nudity, pedophile jokes, race jokes. But, no being hateful because, all of those places, I never experienced hate. We just experienced terrible jokes, a lot of Michael Jackson jokes back in the day. So, if you ever played like League of Legends, you would probably say you've experienced hate because people think they deserve to tell you how to play a game and you should that's
go kill
true.
yourself and things like that.
Yeah.
There's just bad people out there. But like I said, the public lobby of a public game is not the place for that. If you want to have that kind of stuff, go find the dark reaches of the internet and join those chat rooms. Games are supposed to be for fun. And of course you have your adult lobbies where cussing is allowed. Cussing is one thing, right? But if you're telling little Billy to go ask his mom for a Cleveland steamer or something, then you've got a problem and you probably shouldn't be in that chat.
Yeah. But everybody's got to be responsible for themselves. That's one thing we got to remember.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%.
And, little Billy is going to come to a time where, he's going to be responsible for himself, and then that crap ain't going to happen in the real world. And he's going to wish mom and dad or his uncle dad or whoever whipped his ass a few times so it wouldn't be that way. But before we get off on a tangent about little Billy and Cleveland steamers, you guys got anything else about strike system here? All right. Well, you made it to the end. You get no strikes, but you do get love. And I'd love for you to hit the son of a bitch. But you do get love because you're going to hit the notifications. You're going to hit the subscribe. You're going to tell all your friends and give us your feedback. What do you think? Do you think the system is, I think it's going to have a lot of issues, and I think it's going to be spammed the hell out of, but it's going to definitely be reworked. Do you think it's going to be worthy? But like Nick said, though, something definitely needs to be done by everybody who puts an online game out. There's something that has got to be done because, it's okay to be gross. It's just not okay to be hateful. And that's just my feelings. So thanks again for watching. And until next time, see ya.